Well, good morning, one and all, and welcome back to the Euroformula Open Championship. We arrive here for round 5 at Paul Ricard, and fresh off the back of our last visit back at Budapest, it is now at the top of the tree. Michael Shin arriving into the French weekend with the championship lead after a breakthrough race 2, where he managed to take control of the race by winning and also taking the fastest lap as well to boot. Still a long way to go there. We've got plenty of racing to bring you through the course of this weekend, and also on top of that, a trip to Red Bull Ring, Barcelona and Monza still to come. Timo Kharczyk looking to recover after a tricky run at the last round, obviously having a very sticky end to his weekend at Hungaroring after not scoring a single point in that last race. But the first race was decent for him. He'll look to bounce back to his earlier form during that Hungaroring weekend, and also including Yevon David, who still sits second in the championship. The Sri Lankan coming off the back of a reasonable point-scoring weekend at Hungaroring. Certainly not his strongest weekend so far this season. There have been better results here for the Sri Lankan through the course of this campaign, but he'll be looking to come back fighting as much as Kharczyk. But in terms of other news to bring you as well, folks, some changes in some of the lineups as we now introduce Preston Lambert to the grid this time. Joining BVM Racing is the second BVM car in this lineup alongside Timo Kharczyk, coming in from Formula Pro USA Western Championship, also in the USA realms for various other racing as well. Not to mention Formula Winter Series last year, taking part in Spanish F4 and various other F3 championships as well, where he has been successful in places. We also have as well Gennaro Trapper, who comes in from Argentina. He's racing for Nielsen Racing now after the departure of Sean Rashid, who will not be taking any more starts this season in the Euroformula Open Championship. The Argentinian will be stepping up after taking part in F4 in Brazil last year with a victory under his belt, finishing 5th in that championship that season, and Spanish F4, not to mention after that competing in the FIA Motorsport Games representing Argentina as well. George Morgan here, your commentator. Alongside me once again is Chris Stevens.
Hello, George. And yes, we do have some interesting wild cards here this weekend. No real guarantees about how far into the season the likes of Preston Lambert and Gino Trapper will be joining us for, but they're here for this weekend. And there was a small smattering of rain this morning on our way into the circuit this morning. It is all dried up then, but it was causing some problems for some of the other single-seater guys who were out there this morning for their qualifying session. Shouldn't be any problems for these guys as they build up towards their first flying laps, but not their first push laps of this session. Looks like many are taking the additional prescribed warm-up lap in the early stages of this qualifying session, bedding in a set of those at Pirelli tyres. Lap times to look out for so far. The fastest lap of the weekend has been Timo Kharczyk, a 1:56.047. That was Yevon David fastest in FP1 as well. But Kharczyk was half a second quicker than anyone else in FP2 yesterday. His first session a little bit compromised. There was a pit lane incident that I just happened to be in the right spot to witness, where one of the motorpark cars, I believe, was sent out into the path of Kharczyk, and he ended up hitting the pit wall and I think damaging the front end of his car, which rather compromised his session. But once it was all fixed for FP2, clearly the young Pole still has a lot of raw speed in that car. And let's not forget, of the 4 qualifying sessions we've run this year, he's been on pole position in 3 of them.
Yep. And as the drivers now start to warm up the Pirelli tyres, getting set for the faster runs, as you so rightly said, Chris, obviously the rain has come down and therefore perhaps may have made it a little bit slippery in certain areas. It's always a bit of a risk when you head out, of course, encompassing the slick tyre, and there might be a thin layer of water. Of course, we haven't really had enough to really land a severe blow in terms of puddles out on the circuit. Certainly no aquaplaning should be expected here at Le Castellet, but you never know, we could be mistaken later on.
Though I noticed that the session has been declared wet, and therefore the rain lights must be on.
They are
so that's why the rear attenuator and the rear wing lights are just flashing away there.
Yeah, so we did have a sprinkling this morning, so there is always a threat. It is a little bit dark in the sky, so there is every chance we could see a re-emergence. There is Fernando Barrichello, once again marking a return to the series, 1 point away from breaking a century in points this season now, and he'd be hoping to join the likes of Ed Pearson, Jose Garfis, Tim McGarchick, Yevon David and Michael Shin in achieving that this season. Last round, points scored in every single race so far. In fact, he's only missed out on points once this season, and that was a non-classified race back in the opening one at Spa-Francorchamps, where, of course, he did not manage to finish that one. Of course, did manage to capture some decent points, though, in the remaining 2 races that were through the course of that weekend, now making his way down through towards the line. 50 minutes to run here in the session, and you can see now Yevon David, of course, largely competing at the very top, held the championship lead for a grand period of time since the start of the season from Portimao onwards. But of course, as we said at the top of the show, Michael Shin arriving on the scene back at Hungaroring, and also especially Hockenheimring, where he scored probably his best weekend of the championship so far. 1 first place and 2 second places with sequential fastest laps in every race.
Yes, for Yevon David to have a really compromised qualifying in Budapest, that was probably the worst circuit for it to happen at, wasn't it? Because it rather curtailed his run throughout all 3 races, and definitely Michael Shin was taking full opportunity on that with his run of form out there. So new championship leader going into this weekend by 4 points to this man Yevon David, the Sri Lankan. Tim McGarchick not down and out just yet, 30 points back from the championship leader, but of course we do have some drop scores to take into account on that as well when we get to the finale in Monza in October. Yevon David is now on a push lap and flying through Scene Corner here, flat out in one of these cars, and heading into this long, never-ending right-hander of Le Bousset. So he just dips 2 wheels into that blue-painted runoff area there to open up the second apex. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of them venture further out as the area around the actual racetrack starts to dry up a little bit more. But so far, it's 2 purple sectors for Yevon David on this lap. Ed Pearson has just put in the first push lap out there, but it's not quicker than what we've seen so far this weekend, a 57.3. Michael Shin's done the first 56 of the session, but this should be fastest here for Yevon David, and it is a 55.9, so that's the fastest time we've seen so far this weekend on his first proper attempt in this qualifying session.
Yeah, now the benchmark has been laid down, obviously, by him. Tim McGarchick popping into second fastest with a 156.013. So only 1 driver in the 55 club at the moment, and that is, of course, Yevon David. We do have Della Torre moving into 7th, just ahead of Ed Pearson now, whose original lap that sent him to the top has now seen him drop back down into P8. Incidentally, of course, we've been racing here at Paul Ricard ever since 2015. First ever race winner around this track was Alessio Rivera, of course, representing DAV Racing. Konstantin Terashenko, of course, winning the second race after that, and that was the first occasion when, as Euroformula as we know it, we went racing here at Paul Ricard, and we've had many since then.
Yeah, and Alessio Rivera's not doing too bad for himself, is he? A Ferrari factory driver?
No, not too bad at all. I mean, we've seen countless drivers come through the Euroformula Open and go on to great things. Obviously, Leonardo Polcini winning here as well back in 2016, but then eventually in 2022 win the International GT Open under the same banner of GT Sport organisation. Then, as a consequence, would later seal himself a Lamborghini factory drive position. As Yevon David comes through the Bousset section now, this time purple again in the first 2 sectors, 51 thousandths up in the first sector on top of his fastest lap that he did last time out, but he's found a little bit more in the middle sector. Is 35.751 to go purple in the middle by just over 1.5 tenths. As now the Sri Lankan Lion looks to make his way through the final few corners, obviously coming out to Virage Della Torre and then DuPont, but now into the pits. Not content with setting the lap. In fact, every man and his dog coming into the pit lane.
Yeah, so doing the standard swap of Pirelli tyres. You tend to run 2 sets during this qualifying session, and then depending on how you've qualified, you'll use them in various different ways during the 3 races as well, because of course this not only sets the grid for race 1, but we'll be reversing the top 6 from this qualifying session to set the grid for race 3 as well, as we see Tim McGarchick here on a lap. So interestingly, it's the 2 BVM guys who have stayed out and are putting another lap on this set of tyres. There are just a few more spots of rain out there, so I don't think the rain is completely finished just yet. It's not enough to really compromise these guys at all at any point, but Timothy Harcek just gone fastest in the first sector. And what's good for him as well, Preston Lambert is following in his wheel tracks and also learning, you know, where he should be turning in, where he should be braking, picking up all the information he needs from one of the fastest drivers in the field. He's certainly in safe hands with Timothy Harcek as his teammate. Don't let the point standings fool you. Timothy has been quite unlucky so far this year in terms of his results, and definitely should be much closer to Yevon David and Michael Shin in terms of the championship points. Fastest in the middle sector again for Timothy Harcek.
Yeah, by some margin as well, nearly 0.6 better in the middle. So this is a very decent lap here from Timothy Harcek, the Polish talent who, like you so rightly said, Chris, very unfortunate, had his own fair share of problems with obviously the clutch system that we do have, the carbon clutch here in the Dallara 324 that has really put the drivers to the test in terms of getting off the line. And I know that has been certainly the topic of the main topic of interest for our two new drivers that have come in, obviously the likes of Preston Lambert and also Gino Trapper, as though we see Timothy Harcek now come around the final corner this time. Let's see if he can escalate that near 0.6 of a second growth in the middle sector to then try and grow the gap to Yevon David once more, and he does grow it by some margin. That is first fastest for Timothy Harcek. The pole back on top here at Paul Ricard this time, and that is nearly 6.5 up on the Sri Lankan wonder. Down in third now as Preston Lambert goes second fastest.
Yeah, so 0.9 of a second over Yevon David there. So BVM 1-2, but are they going to come in and change those? We see the Motorpark guys have sent their cars back out with a fresh set of boots on here. So they've got a second set on. Is BVM going to go for a second set, or are they going to try and save a completely fresh set for the races?
I can almost hear Giuseppe Mazzotti saying stop the count right now. They've got two cars currently sat at the top two places. But yeah, really well done. Obviously going out for that additional run as opposed to Motorpark cars coming in the pit lane turned out to be an inspired move. Obviously they had a clear track to work with and at the same time can work together to escalate their places inside the top 10.
And I feel like most people will have seen Preston Lambert without knowing it's Preston Lambert, because if you've seen the video of the simulator in the airport, and the woman running is, have you done this before? And he goes, yeah, I race in Formula 3 in real life, so it's it's no biggie. That's the chap right there in the black and yellow BVM car.
Yeah, obviously coming in from the United States, and like I said, has had some success in his home country as well, with 2 wins under his belt. As he took part back in 2023, also took 2 pole positions in his own right with 3 podiums, ultimately finishing 4th in the championship. Slightly more sporadic appearances in sequential championship runs, has had experience in Formula 3 level with other series as well over the course of last year. But Formula Winter Series he also took part in back in 2024, and also Spanish F4 after that. So really starting to make his move into F3 machinery proper now, coming towards the end of 2024, now into 2025. So we'll see how he gets on. There is Timothy Harcek, currently first fastest by some margin. That 1:55.023 places him 6 and nearly 6.5 ahead of his teammate Preston Lambert. And of course, we look at the stats that Timothy Harcek has pulled together. 3 first places, which stands to be second behind Yevon David's numbers right now. Should probably, arguably, be more.
I believe that was Ed Pearson, still with a Motorpark sticker on his helmet. Must be an old one that he's picked up there.
Could well be.
Get that changed if I were you, Ed, because I know someone in the team who's going to have you for that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Nielsen Racing coming in as a new team for this season, and also Pearson providing them their first ever victory in the Euroformula Open Championship, and in the very first race of the season back at Portimao.
Yeah,
you know, quite a moment for this new fledgling team.
They've had some ups and downs since then, but certainly at the first meeting of the season, it was pretty spectacular, continuing their record of winning on debut in LMP3, LMP2, and now single-seaters as well. This is young, that was young Gino Trapper we were just looking at there, the 17-year-old Argentinian who's been racing in Spanish F4 this year, going for his first qualifying session in Formula 3 machinery. And Nielsen are actually looking for drivers to come and test their cars over the summer break in what could be some shuffling around, some new stuff coming for the second half of the season and into 2026, where of course we've just had the new calendar be announced as well, where we'll be going to Misano in June next year as well. Sadly won't be visiting the Red Bull Ring next year, but Misano in its stead, returns to every other racetrack that we're visiting this year, and rounding out the season in Barcelona as well. The traditional end to the GT Sport organisation season returning there in October. And now look at this, Jose Garcia is about to come up on some traffic. Won his teammate 2 BVM cars as well, coming down the Mistral. And I think he's actually backed out of that effort. He's got Everett Stack just in front of him, the number 9 car. Garcia is currently 4th fastest in this session and had just done a personal best. But coming up to crunch time now, 4 minutes left on the clock. The BVM guys out there with a fresh set of boots on. We saw those tyres being changed in the pit lane.
Yeah, now back out on track to put them to work. As we now watch as Jose Garfias makes his way through Scene Corner and then in towards the Bousset section. Of course, I had a chance to catch up with Jose over the weekend, obviously coming into Saturday off the back of Friday. And obviously he, well, when I asked him, what are your expectations here for this weekend in Paul Ricard, and he just said one simple 3-lettered word, and that is win. That was all he had to say. And I have to say, you'd be, I tell you what, you would not put it past him. He's already taken 2 this season and has taken many podiums through his time, also having experience in FIA Formula 3 level. As we now watch Yevon David, 5 thousandths off the best time put in place by Timek Archik. So now we're starting to see the times heat up here with 3.5 minutes to go. Coming into the Mistral chicane this time, Yevon David putting the foot back to the floor. We'll look to try and uncover a little bit more delta coming in towards Scene this time. The Sri Lankan, who, like I said before, led the championship for a grand portion. Obviously, it was a breakthrough weekend at Portimao once more, continuing his podium success run eventually, though that did come to an end. He's purple again, though, in the middle sector. It was a 35.527 to make him 61 thousandths faster than Timek Kaharczyk in the closing stages of this qualifying session now with 3 minutes to go. It's all or nothing. This is going to be a very fast finale here at Paul Ricard, here at the end of qualifying to open up our French weekend here in this season's Euroformula Open Championship. Yevon David flying through the rights and lefts. Through the slalom he will go. Already, historically, has managed to land a pole position, has yet to make it 2. Timek Kaharczyk has out-ratioed him in terms of pole positions this season, with him obtaining 3. Here comes Yevon David to knock him off his perch. But he can't. Second fastest, time lost in that final sector, but progresses to P2 ahead of Preston Lambert.
It was 2 personal bests, but not enough by 84 thousandths of a second. Here's Garfias again, 2 personal bests for him so far on this lap as he flies through Scene Corner and into Le Bousset. The young Mexican, as you said, George, has already won a couple of races so far this year. I'm sure he was expecting a little bit more from what you could say is his second season in Euroformula, having come in midway through last year. Fastest middle sector done, though, by Fernando Barrichello. So can he suddenly throw his hat into the ring? Yevon David now going fastest in the first sector as well. Timing screen is lighting up all over the place at the moment. We'll keep our eye on Jose Garfias. For now, here's Barrichello with the that fastest middle sector we were talking about into Virage Dupont. Very tricky right-hand hairpin-esque corner. He puts the power down, and the timing line so far down the start and finish straight, but he does go top. He beats Timek Kaharczyk by just 0.02 of a second, but here is Yevon David once again with another cracking lap under his belt here, and this time it's fastest in both of the first 2 sectors. So he's just got to keep it neat and tidy, and he'll be able to take that away from Barrichello. Yevon David going for his second pole position of the season, and don't forget that is a bonus point in the championship as well. Really struggling to get the power down out of the Virage Bendor, but through the penultimate corner now, the Virage de Lac, and then into Virage Dupont. And again, we'll see how he gets the power down there. The Sri Lankan now drives up towards the timing line. We'll keep our eye on Kahacik and Garfias as well, because they've got good sectors as well. But it is fastest for Yevon David, a 1:54.914.
Yeah, the first 1:54 of the session as well. So that's a great lap listed by Yevon David. Timek Kahacik not far away, though. Jose Garfias backing out of his lap, I think, coming out of the middle sector. He's already over 3 1/4 tenths down. Kahacik, though, chasing what could yet be a magical 4th pole of the season. Currently 100th down on David coming out of the first sector, also 71 thousandths away in the middle. Now looking for something really special here in the final sector now to try and muster his way back to the top as Ed Pearson now 5th fastest, Lambert all the way down in 6th, Della Torre in 7th. Here comes Kahacik. Can he levy himself higher? Yes, he can! And that, as the checkered flag comes out, puts Kahacik on provisional pole position here for now. We've still got drivers to cross the line, but that could be a momentous run from Timek Kahacik and places him nearly 3 tenths clear in his pursuit for a 4th pole.
And I don't think anyone's going to take it from him. David down by 2 tenths on this lap so far. Barrichello down by 5. Ed Pearson's gone fastest in the first sector. Maybe the young Brit can take this away from him. For now, it's Timek Kahacik, but where is Ed Pearson? He's making his way down the Mistral. And could this be Nielsen Racing's first pole position in the Euroformula Open Championship? You see some fresh colours on that Nielsen Racing car as well, reflecting the gold that has run on all of their prototype cars over the years, and now reflecting that in the single-seaters as well. Oh, he's lost time. It's not a personal best in the middle sector, but this could still yield a front-row spot for Pearson here. So he makes his way around Labuse, currently 6th fastest. That would put him on reverse grid pole for race 3 tomorrow afternoon. And if he does manage to improve, that would actually put Preston Lambert on his debut weekend on reverse grid pole for that one. And so the Nielsen Nation will be willing Pearson along here. It will be one of the last cars to cross the line anyway. Keep it neat and tidy through this final sector. You see the back end just stepping out a little bit there through the last corner and really stepping out as he tried to get the power down there. Surely he's going to lost a heap of time in all of that. Let's see what it is when he gets up towards the timing line. It's only 5th for Pearson, 3/4 of a second off. And so it is a 4th pole position of the season for Timek Kahacik.
Yeah, that's all she wrote. It's Timek time here at Paul Ricard. He is fastest here in qualifying to open up round 5, the Paul Ricard weekend. The pole is on pole once more for a 4th occasion. Yevon David in 2nd, having listed a great lap himself as well. The top 2 in the 1:54s. Fernando Barrichello, great effort to go 3rd fastest as well with a 1:55.003. Jose Garfias 4th, Ed Pearson 5th. Preston Lambert on debut in 6th. Diego Della Torre in 7th ahead of Everett Stack. Michael Shin in 9th place with Finn Green listed in 10th spot for Nielsen Racing. We then moved down to 11th with Gennaro Trapper on his debut start, the Argentinian in 11th ahead of Paolo Brajnik for NV Racing at the bottom. But that is it for qualifying here at Paul Ricard. A great start to the weekend, though, for BVM, and a few, I would imagine, some promising signs with the likes of Preston Lambert in his first start in the Euroformula Open Championship, getting used to a new car as well, the Dallara 324 chassis with the Toms engine, the TGE 33, 6th fastest ahead of Diego Della Torre. That is not bad at all, and within a second, in fact, just over 8 tenths of a second away from his own teammate, Timek Kahacik. But the pole now is parking up here at Parc Ferme, and for Timek Kahacik, like we have said, he has had his misfortune through the course of this season. He was on pole for the very first race of the season back at Portimao. He also landed pole position at Hockenheim Ring and also at Hungaroring, but he'll now stand tall on the front step of the grid, and we'll be taking them through towards turn 1. As you can see, a clenched fist and a celebration as he now joins the rest of his team, but a fantastic way for Kahacik essentially to restore himself back to the front order, and this could be a huge weekend for BVM if they can keep this up right through race 2 and race 3 as well.
Yeah, of course, he's got a bit of work to do in the championship, hasn't he? So he needs to start taking the points away from Yevon David and Michael Shin and the top 2 in the championship, and really start to close down that 30-point gap. He has been the qualifying king. Let's see if he can convert it to some good results this weekend.
Well, certainly given the nature of the format that we run here with 3 races available, I mean, essentially we just look at points for positions alone. It's obviously typical Formula One style point system, 25 points for a win. Essentially you can come away with 75 points after 3 races, so he could potentially obviously need some other results to go his way, but there's obviously chances here for Timek to come back in. 3rd fastest for Barrichello, 2nd fastest for Yevon David, and of course on pole position it's Timek Kaharczyk, and he is with Alfredo Filippone. He'll be standing by for an interview.
And we are here with the poleman. We have seen him as poleman a number of times. Timek Kaharczyk, how was it last minute this time?
Yeah, it was quite tense, you know. In the morning it was a bit wet, so the track was drying. I knew that probably the quickest lap would be the last one. So yeah, I just put the lap in together. I was pretty happy with that, and yeah, I managed another pole, so super happy, super grateful to the team.
Very different conditions today. How does it change in terms of car feeling?
You know, yesterday it was super hot, so the balance of the car was a bit different than today. So we're a bit guessing how to manage that, but in the end, you know, we did a good job. The car handling was really good, and yeah, I couldn't be happier.
And later, just win.
Yeah, the plan is easy. Get a good launch and then just, you know, go into the distance. So yeah, hopefully we'll get a win today.
Well done.
Thank you.
Sounds like a very straightforward plan to me, and we'll see how Timek Kaharczyk gets on as we go racing this afternoon. Join us at Paul Ricard, but until then, it's goodbye.